They're gonna kill the love of my life. Casey! If I don't go back to what I was doing.
On February 24th.
Our line of work is quite brutal and quite ruthless.
How far would you go for love?
You steal truck, bring it to me. Then you make your money.
Is it dangerous?
Of course it's dangerous!
Nicholas Hoult, Felicity Jones, with Ben Kingsley and Anthony Hopkins.
All this trouble, all this pain, for love.
Collide. In theaters February 24th. Rated PG-13. May be inappropriate for children under 13.
ABC Radio app. Download it now. Upload the BS. 77 WABC.
Congrats also on a Bronx Tale. You are now a director on Broadway musical.
I always felt it would be a wonderful musical, and like 15 years ago, or even more, I asked Chaz to, what do you think? Blah blah blah. He had a musician had written some stuff, and it sounded bad, and so I just let it go. I never thought that I just let it go foolishly, and then a few years ago, me and Tommy Mottola and Jane Rosenthal and Chaz were sitting around, and we were saying, let's do it, let's. And so how do we do it? And then we're trying to figure that out, and finally we figured it out the way we did.
You cracked it. It's great.
Back here on the Bernie and Sid Show on 77 WABC, we were just listening to De Niro talk to Fallon about our friend Chaz Palminteri's new musical.
Which is great at the Longacre Theater.
That's right.
Great.
A Bronx Tale, a musical which everybody seems to love.
And we had Chaz in here, and if you don't know the story, it started before it was a movie and a musical. It was a one-man show, and it was great. And De Niro went to watch it one night, and after the show was over, Robert said to Chaz, he said, "You got a great movie here." And Chaz was like, "I do?" He's like, "Yeah." So it was De Niro's idea to make it a movie.
Wow.
And he wanted to be in it. And Chaz said to Robert De Niro, he said, "You can be in it, but I'm playing Sonny." Because De Niro, of course, plays all the great mobsters. And De Niro said, "That's fine. I'll play the bus driver. I'll play the father."
That's his dad. Yeah.
He played the father. So it was De Niro's idea, A, to make it into a movie, and De Niro's idea to make it into a musical later on.
Brilliant.
So as his friends call him, Bobby De Niro was huge for Chaz Palminteri.
Hey, what do you want from me? In studio right now, we have somebody who can talk a little about it. She is a woman about town, a WABC radio host on the weekends, and we love her. Joan Hamburg is in studio with us. Thank you, Joan, for sitting down with us.
Thank you, guys. I love it.
We love you.
We love you.
Now, listen, you saw A Bronx Tale.
I did.
And who would know better? By the way, Joan's son is a famous screenwriter,
Very
producer.
Famous. Yeah.
Writer, director.
Right.
He started as a kid. Everyone has, just like you were saying, Chaz and De Niro. My kid had written a little, whatever.
Right.
And for some weird reason, it got entered, which I don't think he did. Someone entered it in Sundance. He was like 20, 21, and it got picked up.
Wow.
And it was in the comedy part. At Sundance was Ben Stiller, and comedy was always relegated like to the middle of the night, 12, 1 o'clock. Stiller's there. He looks at this movie, and he said, "Oh, my God, this kid is so funny." It was a little film called Safe Men.
Okay.
And so that's over. He goes home, my kid, and he gets a call from Ben Stiller. And Ben says, I've been working on a project with De Niro.
Yeah, Meet the Fockers.
Meet the Parents.
Right, Meet the
Parents. And he said,
right.
and it wasn't called Meet the Parents, something like that, but it's really awful. And De Niro said, "I'm gone. I'm not doing this.
Right.
It's an awful thing." And he said, Stiller, "I met this kid at Sundance. I bet he's cheap. Let's give him a shot to try to do it." So they called John, and listen, De Niro, Ben Stiller, you're still in school.
Amazing.
So he wrote it.
Of course.
And the rest is history.
Yeah. He did 3 of those, the 3 Fokker movies.
Yeah,
he
Meet the Parents, Meet the Fockers, Meet whatever.
Little Fockers.
Then I Love You, Man.
And then he also Zoolander with 2 Ben Stiller movies.
Zoolander.
Right.
I Love You, Man. Along Came Polly.
Right.
Or one of those.
See, these guys.
Wow. And he still lives at home with Mom, though, right?
I wish. I wish.
See, these guys, they stay very loyal. Like, for example, your son with Stiller, a guy like Sandler, for example, Adam Sandler. all of his movies, he's got Rob Schneider, if not for Sandler.
Yeah, because they're like good luck.
Right.
And you don't want to get rid of that luck. But I Love You Man, which was my favorite.
Yeah.
That was him without Stiller. You know, he
doing
his own thing. And his brand new one called Why Him, which is opening Friday. That's all him.
That's Bryan Cranston.
That's Bryan
who was here
Cranston.
a couple days ago with you, and these guys assaulted him by the elevator for a picture.
The guy, James Franco.
I took him out.
Yeah.
James Franco is Bryan Cranston in this Why Him movie, which is another comedy.
So funny.
And your son wrote
and directed it.
It looks a little bit, to me, from the coming attractions, it looks a little bit now. Franco plays like
Meet the Parents.
Like Meet the Parents.
But a little different. It's really, I loved Meet the Parents because that's the story of all of our lives, right?
Right.
You know, like what was that old joke that Jackie Mason used to do when he was getting married to a non-Jew? And who's more Jewish than Jackie Mason?
Sure.
And he goes to her house, the fiancé, and there's a huge moose on the wall. And the father-in-law to be, you know, trying to make nice, says, "You hunt?" And Jackie Mason says, "I'm Jewish. We eat." and so
I hunt. I do. You're going to cook for me. I go out with a rifle. What are you kidding me?
I got a moose. But anyway, this is really, it's a spoof of the craziness we have in the food world. You know, all of this high end where everything has to be triple organic and it's a spoof on the digital age.
Gotcha.
And all of our obsession. It's really funny.
Listen, you know what I hate also? You're talking about comedies, which your son is apparently...
And you guys do a lot of shtick and a lot of comedy.
Well, it's very nice of you. Thank you, Joan. But the movies, funny movies, the comedies are ignored. It's like the Oscars are snot. Like
they won't ever.
Movies like Airplane and Bad Grandpa... I mean, when you belly laugh like that, there's nothing better for your health. I mean, what's better? It evokes such a reaction out of people. And again, at the Academy Award, it's like they're scum.
I know.
They're not even peripherally considered.
Well, you know, and that's what, as a mother, when I would watch his movies, I literally would have to excuse myself and sit in the ladies' room till it was over because I was so afraid that people wouldn't laugh.
Yeah.
Or that they would look at me and say, "I know it's all based on you guys."
Right.
You know,
That's
like
right.
my husband is obsessed with his dog. So in one of John's movies, the cat was toilet trained. And that's what my husband would do with his dog.
Yeah.
You know, try to teach her to use the bathroom.
Right.
So he didn't have to walk her. and so the kid, as a little kid, would walk around with a notebook, writing every single thing down.
Yeah.
So you have to watch it.
You were the basis for the Barbra Streisand character in Meet the Fockers, right? A
little scary. No, when she was the sex therapist. And the language. My husband.
So is all that pretty accurate? You're
no.
sick, twisted woman like that? Or?
Yeah, that's
absolutely. The perfect mother. Are you kidding? And I used to say to him when he was a kid, he'd say, "No more adventures, Mommy." I'd say, "Come on. You know, we're going to go here." And I said, "Look, when you grow up, you can tell your shrink. Your own shrink when you lie down. What a crazy childhood you had." But my husband, here we are at the premiere. There must have been 1,000 people. And every word, which is the language of that generation, you know, F or whatever, all these words.
Yeah. Sure.
So my husband says in a loud voice in the middle of this screening, "How did this happen to our kid?" He said, "It's your fault." I said, "Shh. We're in a screening at the premiere."
So you telling me in all the great years together with your husband, who, from all accounts, is a great man, that he's never said the F word?
He is an old world. His father, Austrian. The guy never went to bed without his tie on.
Wow.
You know, very suits. He was going to get a new suit.
Yeah.
My husband loves clothes.
Sure.
He was going to get a new suit to go to the premiere.
It's funny because you belong to a nudist colony.
Well, of course.
It's ironic. It's ironic.
To be free, you know,
Of
that's the
course.
way we are.
But he loves clothes nonetheless.
He loves clothes. Hanging in his closet, he likes to look at them.
Right.
There's nothing to do with it. But he says he's going to get himself a suit. I said, "No, you're not going to wear a suit. In L.A., all they do is wear very overpriced black T-shirts.
That's it.
And jeans.
Right.
Yeah.
Overpriced jeans.
Yeah.
But
he's old school. He's
old school.
Right.
So it's hard for him. even though, look, what a thrill. I hope that all of you have the pleasure one day
of
seeing your kids do something special and rejoice.
Speaking of old, I don't curse in front of my kids. I never have.
Right?
I don't drop the F-bomb. None of that. I hate that.
You do?
Absolutely.
I never did.
Oh, my mother. It goes back to my mother.
She
a truck driver. Oh, my God. Curse.
No, really?
Oh, God.
But the people, I had friends when they curse in front of their mother. They yell at their mother.
No.
I was like mortified. I can't believe this
my
is happening.
kids would never yell at me, and I would never yell at my parents. But there were curses in my house. I mean, absolutely.
I never had that. I just don't. No.
No, because we're civilized, unlike Sid.
So your husband never sat down with your son and watched porn together? That never happened?
Oh, come on.
Oh, Sid.
You must be
What kind
kidding.
of house did you live in, Joan?
Never.
Well, that's
so listen, Joan, I know you've been up on Fifth Avenue protesting the recent Trump victory.
Yes, she has.
You've been up there with...
She's going to the march.
You're going to march the day after the inauguration.
My knees hurt. I may pass it.
But look, he's bringing glamour back. He's a New York guy. You're a New York gal. I mean, in a way, it's kind of fantastic, no?
I hope so. I hope so for all of us. I want it to be fantastic. And I want it to be world-changing because we need the world to change right now.
Right.
And I didn't vote for him. He isn't my guy.
Same here.
But he's now the president of the United States.
So you have to hope he does well. Which I said the day after the election. I was in D.C.
He's ours now.
That's it. He's ours. Hope he does well. But I did see today that even with folks like you and I saying, we hope he does well. We really mean it. We're sincere about that.
No, that's true.
The majority of Americans are still very pessimistic that he will do well.
They're scared. The world is really changing so fast. And, we were talking about holidays and tradition. More than ever, it's important for all of us, no matter what we celebrate, to come together, to remember persistence of memory. I was saying, my kids were saying, well, what are you cooking for the holidays? Yeah. And I would say, whatever, XYZ.
You celebrate Hanukkah, though, right? You do Hanukkah both?
We do it all because everyone is sort of intermarried,
I got you. Sure.
Whatever.
Sure.
We've got Catholics and Protestants and Jews, with like the old saying, why is this night different from all other nights?
Right.
Because there are no Jews.
Not quite a Seder.
What are we going to do?
Right.
But anyway, I said to my kid, but you don't even like that. Why do you want me to cook that? Because we've always had that. And I want it.
It's tradition.
And it's a comfort. It's like a blankie today.
Yeah.
Sure.
And we really all need that. And I'm Pollyanna, the ultimate optimist.
Right.
I'm concerned not only about Donald Trump, but about the world, but all of you. We have to give this guy a chance because he is not only Bernie's. And I remember saying to Bernie, who's one of the smartest guys I know.
Agreed.
What happened to you with this Trump
Terrible
thing?
thing. Terrible.
I'm blushing.
But now he belongs to us.
Right.
But look, listen. I actually, I was somewhat. I was prescient a little bit. No,
I believe
just
none
slightly.
Of us. I had a crazy.
Nobody thought.
No, I had a psychic on, Judy Turner, a crazy. I think we lost a guest or something, and we called her up, and I said, every one of these pundits is saying Hillary doesn't have to worry. She can relax. Let's go to a psychic and see what you think. And this woman from Edgewater, New Jersey said, I have bad news for you. Me. What's the news? Trump is going to win.
Wow.
I said, you're kidding.
Wow.
She says, no, Trump is going to win.
How long was this before the actual election, this guest?
It was 2 months.
Oh, wow.
2-3 months.
Wow.
So after the election, she called into the studio and said, who was right and who was wrong?
Yeah, she was right.
So she was right.
We went back and forth, Bernie and I, about Trump. Obviously, I voted for Hillary like you, and he voted for Trump. But one thing we do agree on, being that you are Mrs. New York City, is this mayor, this Bill de Blasio. He's got to go. He's got to be the worst public official ever elected in the history of our city. I'm hoping you feel the same way.
Well, not a huge fan. Do you agree, Bernie?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I can't get over the cop hating thing with the irresponsible rhetoric leading up to the assassination of the cops. Ever since then, and body slamming the poor woodchuck. And now the deer he allowed to expire in his custody.
Yeah, I know.
It's just terrible. But one more thing. Andrea Bocelli. He was going to perform at Trump's inauguration.
Yeah.
Apparently there's this movement to intimidate any performer who agrees to perform at the inauguration.
He backed out, right?
He backed out. He just backed out.
Yeah.
It's truly ridiculous. The guy is going to be the president. We're done now.
I know,
He's going to be the president.
But isn't that not just the most petty type of
I do. I think
divisive, vindictive? To say to Andrea Bocelli, how dare you legitimize and normalize this Donald Trump guy? Here he is putting a disabled man front and center, an immigrant also, a disabled immigrant. And these guys won't let him do that. How about that? It's terrible.
You ever hear Joy Behar do her shtick on saying that he couldn't possibly be blind? Right. The only women he loves have to be glamorous and gorgeous. She says, why can't this guy go with the Miss guy? Give some ugly person a break.
Yeah. Listen.
That's funny.
Joan Hamburg, we're out of time. But
Goodbye, guys. Have a wonderful holiday.
Well, listen, being that you are Miss New York City, what is the one thing you recommend that you have to do in this city this time of year? The one thing.
Besides a Bronx Tale.
Right.
Beside the theater, which is really.
Always great.
Which is always great. You know, just to drink in the pleasures. What I tell even friends who have been here, get on that on-off again bus.
Yeah.
Go see this city, get on and off whenever you want. Go down Fifth Avenue. Look at the most beautiful tree in the world. Look what's happened to neighborhoods like Soho, Tribeca,
gorgeous.
The Lower East Side. Appreciate
Fidei. Great,
the marvel.
Beautiful. Yes.
Times Square. Go at night when the city is lit up with fire and enthusiasm. And just realize we are so lucky we live in the greatest country in the world. And it's time for all of us to embrace each other, not to be haters.
Beautiful, beautiful. There you go. That's why everybody loves Joan Hamburg here in New York City. She's on Saturdays. What time are you on
Saturdays, 1 to 3. Always on the podcast.
And this weekend, Bryan Cranston?
We had Bryan Cranston on last week. We have great guests on this week.
Here you come. Joan Hamburg Show. Joan, thank you. Merry Christmas. Happy Hanukkah.
And to you guys, happy holidays.
Thank you. Bernie and Sid, back after this.
77 W.
They're going to kill the love of my life. Casey! If I don't go back to what I was doing.
On February 24th.
Our line of work is quite brutal and quite ruthless.
How far would you go for love?
You steal truck, bring it to me. Then you make your money.
Is it dangerous?
Of course it's dangerous.
Nicholas Hoult, Felicity Jones, with Ben Kingsley and Anthony Hopkins.
All this trouble, all this pain for love.
Collide. In theaters February 24th. Rated PG-13. May be inappropriate for children under 13.